Okay, everyone, thank you for joining us here at Lonely Golem Games. We're going to do another retrospective called Wrap It Up. With me is Frenchia,
Hello, everyone.
and we're going to kind of go into the development and any of our challenges that we faced with Wrap It Up. It was a Game Jam game for 2024. I can't believe it's
Hmm.
a year, essentially a year away that we've done this game
A year away as of us recording this. Yeah.
as of us recording this. And then with that, it was a Christmas based game jam in which we had 12 seconds of gameplay. So the
Right.
idea was that you had 12 seconds of gameplay for this Christmas game jam. And I think we did all right.
Yeah, I enjoyed what we came up with for this one. It
Yeah.
was fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd like to think that even with our playtesters, it wasn't one of the more difficult games that we made. We we've for the few game jam games we've done, we've earned a bit of reputation for starting off with a game that was difficult.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will say, um, for the game jam itself, it was a little disappointing to find out that there was no winners. There was
True.
no
Yeah.
voting. There was no who was the best in this
Right,
Christmas
right.
themed game jam. But it, it was
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. I think it was also because I think we saw it really close to the when they wanted to start. So we weren't able to check if it was something that had rankings or things like that. We were just checking it as we were making the game and
I
people were
honestly
asking as well.
didn't know
Yeah.
you could do a game jam without rankings. So I'll just
True,
say that
yeah.
it was completely surprising for me.
That it
As
wasn't
I was like,
ranked
wait,
at all.
you can do that? You're
True.
allowed to do a game jam purely for just the love of the game?
Purely just for the fun of making games.
Yes. Yes. And that said, your first game jam or two, you might want to do something like that, but there's
Mm,
no, as long as you're not beating yourself up over score, there, there's
yeah.
no reason not to go into a ranked one just to kind of understand how you did versus others.
True. Yeah. But I guess if you are able to find one that's like
Hmm.
this one where there's no ranking, it's a good gateway if you want to remove that level, if you want to
Hmm.
remove that aspect of making the games with like a bunch of other people attending. And yeah.
Hmm. So let's get right into what the game is about before we start talking
Sure.
about the challenges and everything like that.
Mm,
The original idea for the game, which with the 12-second game jam, did not
yeah.
change much. And
Yeah.
it was essentially to wrap as many gifts as you could in 12 seconds.
Right.
One or two of those, and that you could iterate on them so
Mm,
that you would be able to upgrade or do better the next time, get a higher score. And then we also, I know early on too, wanted to throw in the high scores as well. So it was
yeah.
something to shoot for, even if it was
Mm,
like you're upgrading and you're getting better as you go.
right. So to build up on that, and this goes back to us checking on the rules and mechanics of the game jam. One of the
Hmm.
upgrades we were considering at the start is maybe we could have something that modifies or adds like a couple of seconds to your run.
Hmm.
But when we looked at the rules that was put up for the game jam, it was a strict each run at least should just be those 12 seconds. So we scrapped the idea of adding upgrades that extend your time at least for the run, and it's really just score based, like to make it easier to add on and stack your score for
Hmm.
each of every time you upgrade for each run.
Hmm. Yeah, so we definitely, if we were to push this to market, there's definitely a few things we would change.
Mm,
I definitely think, multiplying the amount of time you have would be one of those.
mm,
Um, Almost similar to Vampire Survivor.
true.
This might
Yeah.
be an insane um, you know, comparison. But like Vampire Survivor, where you're maybe for the first session or two, maybe you get a minute or two in,
Mm,
it seems almost unfathomable to last 10 minutes. And then you
true.
get
The
to the
entire
30-minute
run.
mark. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that this game would have that much interesting mechanics or anything like that, but we could definitely have expanded the time if it wasn't for the game jam rules.
Mm, yeah. Because that was also something that we wanted to, again, going back to wanting to add more time. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't exactly adding more time permanently. It was more of, if you either get an upgrade, or
Mm-hmm.
like maybe if you completed a gift within a certain amount of time, you get that, like you get part of that time back.
Mm-hmm.
That was what we were ideating before we scrapped it because of the strict 12-second rule. But yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
agree. There's definitely something we considered adding if we didn't have the strict time frame for the game itself.
Yeah. So let's get right into the actual game itself. When you click on
Mm.
play, it happens pretty quick. And essentially, you have in the top left corner a gift to match up. And then you've got the three different baskets. Q, W, and E can pull it out. I'll go into more details on kind of the directions I was going with those. But essentially, you have to select the gift, you have to select the wrapping paper, and you have to select the bow or ribbon that
Mm.
matches that gift. So, very similar to many, children's games in which you're just. Um, I can only think of Flash games right now because I'm an old man, but children's games where you would like, dress up the doll to match up or whatever the case is. Pretty simple mechanics, but 12 seconds is really hard to get, you know, two or three gifts in, just depending
Yeah.
on the variations you get.
It's shorter than you think it is, which you already think that 12 seconds is short, but once you have
Mm-hmm.
an active game going, it's a really short amount of time. So that's why we went with the simple keyboard mechanics, because it saves time
Yes.
typing in those keys versus the point and click mechanic. And
Mm-hmm.
it translates to controllers as well.
Mm-hmm. So with that, you get scores, and it's based off the multiplier, and then we also have additional modifiers as well. Once you complete the 12 seconds, you can play again right away, or you can go into the upgrades menu. The upgrades
Mm.
menu for 30 score, which should hopefully only be about, what, two, maybe three sessions, if you only get
Yeah.
one per session almost. But the, or no, you should probably get it within two sessions. But essentially,
Yeah,
it's
I
make
think
a
so.
list where you gain a +1 objective, which is essentially means that you could match one of two gifts that we give you as on the screen, which is
Mm.
pretty powerful.
Yeah.
If I'm, you know, it gives you a lot more variations. You can
Yeah.
potentially match way more way fast. You
Yeah.
might get the variation where all you have to do is change a ribbon. So
Yeah.
you could potentially get 3, 4 gifts pretty quick, especially when you have two to pull from. So you might even have one where the variation is just the gift inside the box,
Mm.
which means that you can flip between those. And as soon as we see that you have 3 out of 3 matching, that's a success, and you get a new gift to match.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So with that side of things here, we have milk and cookies. So that costs 40, and you increase the points you gain in the first 5 seconds. So essentially, if you're really on the ball, you can get way more points. Then we have Frosty, which increases the points in the last 5 seconds. So now there's only 2 seconds of time that you wouldn't have with modifiers.
Mm.
Um, so, just really keeps amping up those points. And finally, the last one is you get a bonus point for chaining gifts. So the chaining can really help with high score
Mm.
tracking and everything like that. So essentially, we wanted to put the game mechanics that would change the game right away at the start, right?
Mm.
Then we looked at how the score would increase said, okay, a times two multiplier is probably the fastest way to unlock the other unlocks,
Yeah.
and then everything else is just, more gravy, more
Mm.
points, more amping up.
Yeah. Our upgrades didn't require you to play the game any differently. It'll just add on to how you're already learning and playing
Yeah.
the game. So as long as your muscle memory is picking up on the
Hmm.
controls again, which hopefully we made simple enough and
Hmm.
straightforward, you just needed to get that rhythm to get your high score
Hmm.
and get those upgrades.
I will say we did for the very first upgrade, we did do it so that it did tweak the gameplay mechanics where we added the additional objective. But
Oh,
yes,
okay, right.
right.
Okay, okay.
And then that way too, like in our previous video there too, you're only going to get people to play the game maybe a minute, if that. A
Mm.
12-second game, you'd be lucky to get 1 to 3 loops out of somebody.
Yeah, true.
So we tried to make it so that there was an objective of like, oh, what is plus one objective?
Right.
Have that as to be enough of an interest point. Get to
Yeah,
that, you see it, and then you decide whether or not you want to keep going.
right. But at the very least, both the upgrades and the high score, or competing against yourself
Mm-hmm.
for that high score, would also be an a motivation to
Mm-hmm.
at least do one more run.
Yeah.
Again, going back to your example earlier, Vampire Survivors, it's one of those things where once you get some of the upgrades,
Mm-hmm.
you want to at least try a run with that new upgrade unlocked and see how it goes. So kind of
Mm-hmm.
going for that feel. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then finally with that, at the time of recording, we also had high scores.
Mm.
So we actually broke up high scores with best run and total score. So best run being the best score you get in one session, and
Mm-hmm.
then of course total score is everything that's added onto it. So
Right.
we got about two different people playing, I
Mm-hmm.
think, which honestly there was 34 entries in that game, in the game jam there, but there was no drive for people to play each other's games. So
Mm-hmm.
honestly, I think two people was pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
Were you able to play any of the games in the game jam?
Yeah, I was able to. It was a decent enough um, amount of submissions that I just went on what caught my eye first, but I wasn't able to go through a lot of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were some fun ones. Some endless runners and things like that too.
Mm-hmm.
I think I did end up playing one of the horror esque looking games, but
Mm.
I think it was called Santa's Bag. But
Oh, okay. I think I know which one you're talking about.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
simple game. I think there was a bit of a jump scare.
Right.
It's 12 seconds. It's a 12
Yeah.
second loop. Not much you can do.
Yeah. I remember there were a couple of submissions that was delivering the presents.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I think I played one of those, kind of like a Grinch esque style where you fly from house to house, then
Hmm.
you drop the gifts. I forgot which title it was, but yeah, there were a couple of those that were for the 12 seconds.
Gotcha.
Like you said, it's with the limitations of 12 seconds, and with it being Christmas, there's really going to be a lot of commonalities between the games as well,
Hmm.
which makes sense.
Hmm.
Keep sticking to the. It was when was this? Was it the December? Yes, December 1st,
Yes.
December 22nd. Yeah.
So it was kind of a full month almost
Mm.
for dev, but it's a busy time of year.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It made sense that even if it's just just quote unquote a 12-second jam,
mhm,
with it being in December where a lot of things is happening, there's also less time than you think
mhm,
there
mhm.
is. Yeah.
So I thought ours came out very refined looking and everything
Hmm.
like that too. So do you want to go into any of the challenges or anything like that you had with your aspect? Because you generated all of the art, right?
I generated the all of our assets, I believe.
Hmm. Other
Yeah, I'm
than
trying
the
to think
music.
if I. Yeah, music was as usual. I picked up some from some of my stock and got some from like assets on itch. But yeah, I think in terms of at least what I needed to draw, I think the challenge on my end was just figuring out what style I wanted because again, if we're going back to how um, quick the game will be.
Mm-hmm.
I going into too much detail for illustrations wasn't going to help in anything. Like I would just
Mm-hmm.
overwork. Like I would put in too much work for something that didn't need it. At the same time, I didn't want it to be too simple. So what I decided was more of a cartoony effect. Because if you compare this to our previous game, which was the Even Finer Dining, that one had a bit more detail.
Mm-hmm.
Because that one, like you'd be looking at things for longer for that
Mm-hmm.
one. So it would make sense to have more details for the assets and illustrations.
Mm-hmm.
For this one, since it's also like it's quicker and sillier and things like that, I felt like a more cartoony, cell shaded look would fit. And I think it did. Like even
Yeah,
with the physics and things like that, it really helped with uh it had that feel of like the Flash game style. So I
it
took
did.
inspiration from games like Overcooked, Cook Serve Delicious, where yeah, again, it was playing into like the cartoony, silly style.
Mm-hmm. So I'll maybe go into a little bit of details on what I did to the art, or
Mm-hmm.
um, not butcher it, but definitely
No.
tweak it.
Yeah.
So you had given some very cool little ornaments for the upgrade system, and
Right.
all I did is that we use Godot. So this was a Godot 4 game.
Mm.
With that, I did modify the button module a bit to handle it, but I
Mm-hmm.
desaturated the colors when it was not unlockable.
Right.
I darkened it if it wasn't unlocked, but then on hover over, mouse over, I would also add an additional image behind it, which is just that
Mm.
white border that you see. And then, of course, it's full color so that it would give that a
Right.
look of highlighting. Now, that's probably not how you should do it, but because game jams are supposed to be very quick,
Mm-hmm.
that was the fastest way I could do it
Yeah.
um,
And
with
it worked.
no effort. And I think it looks
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
But
It did.
I think when I was halfway through it, I was like, I should have done it. I should have done it the proper way, because now I've got lines of code that it's a lot of nonsense going on here to give this effect.
Right. Right.
But
I think we kind of did something. This is the first time I did it for the assets, I believe, where I'll go back to the main game screen where the toys, no, not the toys, sorry, the wrapper and the ribbons.
mm-hmm.
I think this is where we first started doing it, but when I asked you, should I just make it the different colors? Then you told me, oh, just make it white. Then we can change that in the
Yes,
code. I think that this is where we first started doing that system and we carried it over to future games.
yeah. So the ribbons and the gift wrap, there was
Yeah.
no need to have separate assets for that.
Mm.
It's this is like minimal work.
Yeah.
Anyways, but essentially, like, hey, well, we can just modify those colors, and if you wanted to have two tones too, you can always throw in like gray as
Mm-hmm.
well, so you'll get a little darker of a
You'll get
color.
a shadow. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think we even used that because there was no. I don't think there's much for shadows other than like on the conveyor belt and windows in the background and
Yeah.
stuff. So like, yeah, why do more work when less will go through? So we
Yeah.
just did that color, and then that meant if we wanted to tweak those colors, we didn't have to update all the assets. We just changed
Right.
the color definition.
Yeah.
We had, I think, in a class we just threw it in, but it might have
Yeah.
been a preload.
It might have been a preload. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's a good site. I'm gonna talk a little bit about how I'm dealing with these physics because those
Sure.
drawers drove me crazy. but I thought that was a really fun effect. But before I do, just because we were talking about assets, I'm really pleased with just to highlight it. It's only
Right.
12 seconds, but
Yeah.
in the background, in the windows, you had
Right.
posted
Right.
this. You had posted this image, and I said that looks great. I'm so sorry, but can I cut out those windows?
Yeah. Yeah.
And possibly, could you do that for me so that you can keep the shadow that you
Of the
have
window. Yeah.
of the window on, and then that way it's just nice and easy so that I could throw whatever in the background.
Right.
And
Right.
you were like, okay, sure. I don't know if I fully, like, because I said to you, I'd like to do some movement or some snow in the background. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of pieced together what you wanted to do. I
yeah,
just wasn't sure like how
yeah,
detailed you were gonna make it. But yeah, when you told me to reload the scene,
yeah.
yeah, I really liked the effect that you were
It's
able to
so
make. It's
simple.
yeah.
But, like, so for those who might be interested in the Godot side of things here, it's really simple. All I did was set the background with the color that we wanted for the night sky. And then I just had, like, essentially emission points for the um, 2D GPU kind of aspect on the Godot. And I just had it push out little square pixels, little white square pixels,
Yeah.
gave them very low gravity, but had them go towards the ground, give them a little bit of gravity,
Yeah.
and like that was that. It was probably 5-10 minutes of tweaking, and away we went.
Yeah, and it did add a lot instead of just having the static snow at the
I
back. Oh, and also
Yeah.
for reference, if anyone's looking at this and wondering how we were able to get the shadow on the window, apparently Godot is really it's really accommodating of alpha layers. So in the asset, the shadow itself goes over the space, and it's like a 25%, I believe, opacity of just gray, and Godot was able to process that easily. So you still have the shadow in the window, but it's just this, like Connor said, the sky itself was just a cutout
It's
on
just
the
a
asset.
PNG overlay, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it worked really well. And sorry, that's kind of my, if anything out of this little video, um, that's kind of the thing that I'm like, that looks like I'm very proud of that. It's
Yeah.
silly. There's way more complex stuff going on in the background, but putting two little emitters on either side for the windows, I think maybe it's just even
Yeah.
one that's doing them all.
Yeah.
I know it just felt right. It was really good.
Yeah. Yeah. And like,
All
and
right.
again, it helps with it kind of tying everything up, because everything that we've added outside of the game mechanics itself has its own physics. So having the main scene have a simple animation, like, just it just brings more life to
Mhm.
the scene.
And I'll say this too. I've been playing a lot of retro games of late. It A little bit of movement really does help.
It really
So
does.
if you've got a scene and you've got two characters talking to each other, and if it's a visual novel and it's just static,
Yeah.
JPEGs or PNGs, like that's a different story. But if you've got 3D models, having them move a little bit, it helps. It makes it less boring, even if
Yeah,
it's
the
just the
idle
3 frames.
animations, right?
hmm
Yeah, exactly.
So I think going forwards too, coming out of this, I always want there to be a little bit of movement somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So
It
speak.
helps it also helps the visual of everything's running, because I
Yes.
do notice, at least on my end, when I do play retro games or simple games, you notice when there's a lack of movement,
Yeah.
because it's more natural when there's like even the smallest bit of movement, like that feels more natural, as opposed
hmm
to like when everything's static. That's when you start noticing it, interestingly
hmm
enough.
So let's talk about the drawers. If we're talking about movement, let's talk about the only thing else that moves in this game, the drawers.
The drawers and
So
its contents, yeah.
and its contents. So as you select items and things like that, all I have is when you cursor over something, it actually just changes the object itself. Each object has all three of them loaded. The
Mm,
colors more so are just changing the modified color. So everything is very static everywhere. When
right.
you complete a challenge, um, the the static image slides off to the side,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just replicating that scene a second time and connecting
Right.
everything up. So the drawers are really the only thing with movement, and it was a bit of a learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
I've I've used you know I've used shapes and physics and stuff like that, of course, before,
Yeah.
but I thought it would be a lot easier because all I needed was these objects to be floating physics objects, so there's no movement being applied to them, and that I would just put bounding boxes and like shapes around them to
Mm-hmm.
essentially build drawer walls so
Right.
that when the drawer moves, the objects move too. And it still kind of works. I think the Q drawer, it's a bit still too finicky, but once again, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time.
Mm.
I think the issue with it was that I ended up doing some more complex shapes at the start, and I should have just stuck to like circles and squares. So the ribbons on E, um, they're probably the smoothest, and that's because they're just
Right.
big spheres. So they can
True.
kind of
Yeah.
bounce around, but you know, they're pretty stationary. The depending on how you hit the W, you
Yeah.
you can get it pretty messy. Like you can get red, blue, and green on top of each other,
Right.
um, and they
I
are
will
hard
say,
coded. Yes.
yeah, I will say during our testing, there were times when I just played around with the physics. I didn't even try to match everything. I just open and close the drawers.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So the reasoning that I want to talk about it is that for W especially, it was a
Mm-hmm.
lot of back and forth just to make sure that those rectangles were just large enough that I would never get to a scenario that they would change position. So like red would be in a different position than blue, and things like
Right.
that. So that I
Like
didn't
where
have to
they,
have special logic.
right. So instead, you made sure that they wouldn't, like, tumble over each other, essentially.
Yeah. So they'll still
Yeah.
like if they slide far enough, they'll still lie flat and then flat on top of each other.
Mm-hmm.
But they won't change the order. So like I won't have red between blue and green ever.
Right.
So then the
Yeah.
arrow keys make sense.
Right.
We also programmed it so that it also works with mice as well. So if you didn't use a keyboard mouse
Mm-hmm.
or controller, you could still use your mouse.
Yeah.
But I thought it was just a little fun that way. We
Yeah.
had some wild ones where I think it was the teddy bear and the fabrics, or sorry, the wrapping papers, would
Right.
just like shoot off into nothingness, um,
Yeah.
because they would get caught on some geometry, accelerate to the point of breaking through all geometry.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so it's always a fun idea to think like, oh no, the elves are in danger. But
Yeah.
with
I
12
think that's how we
seconds,
found it out. Yeah, because I
yes,
told you, oh, Connor, I was playing around with the drawers. I think I lost the bear.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So the bear became a projectile, but it was
Yeah.
good. Yeah, taking these game jams, you always want to try to learn something. I
Yeah.
wanted to make a menu that was more dynamic.
Mm.
It was a good experience. I now know there's a few more things I would, tweak with it, but
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I think on my end, in terms of programming, because this is where I started to pick up more
Hmm.
of the actual programming in Godot versus just the assets like in even finer dining. So for this one, outside of translating my UI and UX designs to code, I was able to start playing around with actually connecting the sounds
Hmm.
to the assets. So I think that was where I remember messaging you where, oh, I'm not sure if I did this correctly, where I was trying to get stuff to sound on when the drawers would exit. And I think that's where you told me to check if I just to review if I
Mm-hmm.
was using stream. It basically it was all in the code. So it's one of those things where my first exercise in really combing through the code, because I think it was something really simple where I used like play stream versus just needing to
Yes.
use play, something like that, like something as small as that. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I got it to work, and Connor was
Mm-hmm.
able to double check that I wasn't breaking anything.
And you programmed all the audio volumes too,
I
I
did,
think.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So, yeah, no, I think it was a fun game jam. We ended up, I think, probably polishing it up a bit too much.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was definitely one of those game jams where you had 3 or 4 weeks, but a 12-second game loop, um, you could refine pretty well in that time.
Yeah.
But I think it looks interesting, and
Mm-hmm.
it was another a good one to have in our back pocket.
Definitely, yeah. And yeah,
And,
and we got good feedback from our testers as well. I say our testers, but we have a
mhm,
regular group of people that we reach out to.
mhm,
Just okay, we're doing something again. Let
mhm,
try to break it and see what we need to fix.
belabored friends and family.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, and this one, there was no rush at the finish line. I
Yeah,
think we were still doing stuff a day or two before.
yeah.
I'm always nervous about submitting anything ever, but
Agreed.
I
Yeah,
think
same.
it was pretty laid back on this one.
Yeah. It's one of
Yeah,
those things where it balanced out since the game requirement was really short, but the given time was long. We were
hmm
able to really go through everything, and like
hmm
you said, it came out pretty polished.
yeah. So, anything else you'd like to talk about for wrap it up?
I think that's it on my end. We covered UI, visual audio upgrades and things like that, and also the time. Just
hmm
for a quick recap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, with that, we will wrap it up here.
Mm-hmm.
With that, thank you guys so much for watching. I think I'm very clever, and we'll go on from here. If you guys want to see deeper dives in like the actual Godot aspect, where I go over more programming or like let's break this game apart into segments, more than
Mm-hmm.
happy to go into it as long as there's some
Yeah.
interest in it. Otherwise, we'll probably do another few of these here too for all the little game jams we've done over the course of 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And like always, don't be afraid to join a game jam or make a little game. You're not going to make your magnum opus on the first go.
Mm-hmm.
It's better to start small and work your way large.
Yeah. And the limitations of the game jam really, I would say, for the lack of a better term, force you to make something. Because
hmm
otherwise you'll just get stuck in, oh, I don't know how to do this, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
Versus with a game jam where, okay, this is just a really simple thing. Either do it on your own or grab a friend.
Yeah.
Like Connor like reached out to me. I mentioned it in the previous video. Literally when Connor reached out to me, I was like, okay, like this is the last of, sorry, this is my chance where my personal what do you call it, mental obstacle was that I don't know how to program. And by the second game jam I did with Connor, sure enough, I'm doing my own programming. So there's really no, you just really need to get rid of the excuses that you made for yourself.
Yeah.
Because yeah, at the end of the day, like if you can find a way to jump those hoops, you'll
hmm
eventually pick up the new skills that you need.
Yeah, and I know we didn't mention this before too, but a lot of game jams too have like looking for groups. So
Mm.
if you are a new person and you're like, "Hey, I want to like this is my first time," be open about it. Like this is my first time.
Yeah.
I'm interested in doing X. Is anyone looking for a hand or would like to work
Yeah.
together? Um,
Yeah.
I know some of these game jams are pretty small, so smaller ones you might have a harder time finding someone, but
Mm.
definitely don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah.
Um,
On itch you can filter it where, because for like we said, the 12-second game jam actually ran for 4 weeks. You can filter each game jams for those that run like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or longer, if
Mm-hmm.
that's falls within your comfort zone a bit more.
Mm-hmm. So, with that all said, thanks guys for watching, and
Remember to do all the socials, like, subscribe, all those things. We have both our own personal and the Lonely Golem socials up on the end screen and in the description.
mhm. So I've been Connor BS, with us Frenchie here, and
Yeah.
wishing you all the best and safe travels. All right,
Okay.
bye.
Have a good one, everyone. Bye bye.